We're in the series Married Couples Leading as Team, and today's topic is Your Family Put to the Test. There's a long list of qualities that a leader needs if he wants to become an elder in 1 Timothy chapter 3. And in this long list, there are some qualities that specifically talk about the family, and this is what I'm wanting to have a look at today. When I started going to church, I always thought that the guy leading the church would just have to preach on a Sunday, do some appointments during the week, do some counseling, and then that would be it. I also learned leadership outside of the church, and I never realized how important it is to be able to lead your family. The Bible says in 1 Timothy 3, verse 2 and then 4 to 5. So a church leader must be a man whose life is above reproach. He must be faithful to his wife. He must manage his own family well, having children who respect and obey him. For if a man cannot manage his own household, how can he take care of God's church? The idea here is that if one can't lead their own family, how do we expect that person then to be able to lead the larger family of God? The church is led by spiritual parents. People in the church or leaders that just use a church just to display their own leadership qualities actually have a wrong idea of what this is about. It's about being spiritual parents, about caring for the church, and in the same way that we look after our own families. And that's why leadership in the family is something special. It's actually watched, and that is also something very special. And that means 24/7. These things are tested. If you have a family, you will know the intensity of leading a family often brings tests. Sometimes we have stress with this. Sometimes, we have these areas where we have to resolve conflict. We've got to care, provide, and so much more. And this Bible verse talks about three things in the family life. Firstly, husband of one wife, or else we could also say a one-wife husband, in the way he thinks, the way he ticks, the way he's committed, and the way he loves his own wife. He needs to be sexually pure in every area of his life. And also, he does not actually have to be married. We see that Jesus and Paul were unmarried, but we would have wanted them in a team in our church. Or else in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, we see how Paul talks about the advantages if one is single. So one cannot disqualify somebody from being an elder if they are single. This man is faithful. And of course, when we see the commitment that is demanded and looks at that, it means with the greater value is for the married man that you see that he has a priority for his family. And when we are leaders, this is important. What are our priorities? Firstly, God. Secondly, the marriage. And then the family, and then after that, work and church. And it's difficult to live with this. It's so important to have a balance in all these areas where we can say all these areas are functioning for me. And that's why it's really a test for us that the one who is able to have that balance in church life, family, and work, if this all works out, that person actually has earned the right to be an elder. Secondly, we have well brought up children. An indication that the parents raise the children with wisdom is clear that the children are then well brought up. The parents exercise their authority with love, authority with clarity, and also a servant authority that they have led with. And that's why children can live with this. They can follow. And that's why families like this can display love as well. The parents are also authentic. I know our children as teenagers loved the fact that we were authentic. Everything we were and how we were in the church life, we were at home. It wasn't like we were something there and something different at home, and that would bring confusion, but we were authentic and they knew that we lived out what we said. In Titus chapter 1 verse 6, again this is supported. And what we have here is that we basically have the fact that we need to strive for this, that we can do everything in our might to bring our children up so that they will have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Sometimes we find that either the standard is set so low, or else on the other side we set the standard too high, and we need a balance. It's clear that if we think that these scriptures aren't really relevant, that we're making a huge mistake. Responsibility in the church needs to be taken on from people who see that bringing their children up is an important thing and understood. On the other side, it could also mean that we're setting the standards too high. I think that we, who are the ones that are standing in leadership, that sometimes we set these standards so high, especially for our own children, because we know what they do, we see what they don't do and what they do. And we build pressure then to try and have perfect children. God is the one actually who is responsible for a person's salvation. But my task remains to show and model the way for all our children with all I have. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Teach your child to choose the right path, and when he is older, he will stay on that path." And it's our task to do everything we can do, that when our children are no longer children, we don't know exactly when that is, but when they're no longer children, that they will choose that path for themselves. And of course, our children experience fluctuations. Even in my own family, it wasn't any different. My children had these fluctuations. Sometimes there was a lot of passion, and sometimes there was a coldness. But today I can say that they all found their way to the Lord. And then it also says that we need to lead well, to manage well. And that means for me that we need to take the responsibility in the family well, lead them well, that we need to seek peace and have loving relationships. The value of your wife is something very important, but what I do, I could not do without my wife, but we're going to look at that next week. But some questions for you. Firstly, am I also in my heart a one-woman man? And you know what I mean by that. In my heart, am I totally committed in every area of my life, that I just focused on my wife? And if you're a woman, am I a one-man woman? And the thoughts are the same. Second question, what about my family? Do we have loving relationships? In every area, are our relationships loving? It's a very important question for us. And then thirdly, how can I grow as a father or mother? How can I correct mistakes? In all questions where you need help, seek urgent advice from people who are good role models, and you will then also be qualified to carry greater responsibility.